Many years ago, in the busy market of Ikotun, there lived a woman named Iya Basirat. Iya Basirat was a food vendor and sold food at the market. Everyone came from far and near to buy from her. Her stall was always crowded. You would always see people stretching out their plates and fighting for space on her long queue. Even the rich men in their agbada would park their car by the side of the road and come out with their plates to struggle for a plate of food. Iya Basirat's restaurant was extremely successful. Some mothers had even sent their daughters to learn under her so that they would also open successful restaurants like her. But yet, none of them ever prospered when they set up their restaurants after learning from her. So in a short while, tongues began to wag. Some other food vendors who were not having as much customers as Iya Basirat began to spread rumors around that she was using jazz, and that was why she was selling out and was more successful than them. But Iya Basirat paid no attention to those rumors. Instead, she simply focused on her business. Iya Basirat was a very wealthy woman. As a matter of fact, if you met her outside of her shop, you will not be able to recognize her. Because at her shop, she was always sweaty and dirty while cooking. Her shop was not even so fine or polished. Instead, it was more or less like a shanty house, even though she could buy and build a restaurant to an international standard. But outside of her business, Iya Basirat lived in one of the choicest places on the island in Lagos. Her home was very big, beautiful, and magnificent, and she even had maids at her beck and call. When she went for parties or owambe, she was usually dressed in expensive clothes and wore gold, from her necklaces to wristwatches, earrings, and even bangles. Iya Basirat had several luxurious cars. She was big and rich. Iya Basirat had only two children, a boy and a girl. And because of the kind of money that she had, she sent her children to the UK for their high school. Iya Basirat was rich, and one would have thought that she would no longer be selling food in that her dirty shanty shop in the market, and maybe even open a more befitting restaurant. But Iya Basirat never stopped. As a matter of fact, she was very diligent. She would show up every day at her shop as early as 5 a.m. And she and her head chef, Babatunde, would begin cooking immediately. Even though Iya Basirat had an assistant chef, she never allowed her to assist in preparing the food. It was only her and Babatunde that cooked the food that they sold in the market. Fame of Iya Basirat's restaurant had spread far and near. People had even started inviting her to cater to their events, be it weddings, birthdays, and even burial ceremonies. Iya Basirat would usually only accept the contract if the person who had contracted her agreed that she would cook the food from her shop at the market and now take the food to the venue to share. Iya Basirat was literally always overbooked. But Iya Basirat behaved very strangely. Whenever it was the 21st day of the month, she would close up her shop and travel. And even though she had capable hands that could cook and run the business in her absence, Iya Basirat would completely shut down the shop from the 21st of the month up until the 25th of that month. And she did this every single month. What she did during those days, nobody knew, but she was very consistent at it. And things continued like this for the next few years. So a few years later, Iya Basirat's daughter Yetunde had graduated from college. She had done her university education in the UK, and she read law and came back to Nigeria for her law school. Yetunde finished law school with a first class and was super excited. Her mother, Iya Basirat, was also very happy for her. However, a few weeks after her law school exams, Yetunde wanted to relocate back to the UK so she could get a job and start practicing. But one morning, her mother, Iya Basirat, woke her up and said, Yetunde, Yeti Mama, Omo Mommy, Omo Mi, my daughter, Omo Dada, good child. You will not be going back to the UK. Oh. You will need to join me in the family business. Iya Basirat said to her daughter very sternly, hey, which family business? You mean selling food in that dirty market at Ikotun? Are you kidding me? Like, is this a joke, mom? You expect me, Yetunde, a dual first-class lawyer that already has job offers in the UK and even in Lagos, to leave it and come and join you in selling food in that your dirty little shop? This must be the joke of the century. Speaking of which, mom, I wonder why you still sell there. You literally have enough money to open a restaurant of international standard. Yet, you choose to remain in that dirty local place. Yetunde said, looking very disgusted. Yetunde, please for once listen to your mother. This matter is not up for debate though. If you do not join the family business, the repercussion will be great. There is so much at stake. This is a family business that should be handed down from one generation to the other. At least one of the girls in this family must join the business once they clock 26 years old. If not, something terrible would happen. Oh. You are my only girl child and you have clocked 26 years old. So it is time for you to join the family business. So you cannot and will not go back to the UK. Iya Basirat said, looking scared. Wait, mommy. Are you serious right now? Wait, sorry. I'm sorry for laughing. But I can't control myself right now. Mommy, as in you want me, Yetunde, to come and cook and sell food at your local restaurant? Me? You must be joking. That will never happen. I do not care about whatever stupid reactions or repercussions there might be. I am not doing that, and that is final. Yetunde replied firstly. So a few days later, and unknown to her mother, Yetunde packed all her bags and fled the country. Yetunde returned to the UK. When Iya Basirat found out that her daughter had fled the country, she fell down on the floor and broke down in tears, screaming and wailing, "This girl wants to kill me, oh! Yetunde will kill me, oh!" Iya Basirat screamed out crying. She tried calling her daughter severally, but she wouldn't pick up her call. Meanwhile, Yetunde had settled down in the UK and had even started working at a law firm. Life was going on just beautifully for her. But one day, Yetunde was at work when she suddenly slumped. Yetunde was then rushed to the nearest hospital by her colleagues. And even though she regained consciousness, that day marked the beginning of one diagnosis or the other. Every day it was as though she was getting worse. Yetunde, who had not spoken to her mother since she fled Nigeria, decided to call her mother because she was afraid that she might die. "Mommy, I am sick. The doctor says that I have cancer, that I'm also diabetic, hypertensive. I might even have a stroke soon. Mommy, please, I do not want to die," Yetunde said, weeping bitterly. "Ah, oh mommy, Yetunde, this is what I was trying to warn you about. You cannot just turn your back on the family business and walk away scot-free. You know what you're going to do for me? Just come back to Nigeria first. I promise you that everything will be okay as soon as you return back home and join the family business." Iya Basirat replied anxiously. So Yetunde, against all medical advice, boarded a flight and returned back to Nigeria. Yetunde was very weak when she got back home, but the following day, her mother took her along with her to her shop at the market as early as 5 a.m. to go and cook food. And as soon as Yetunde got to the shop, even though she did not join in the actual cooking, rather she just sat and watched her mother and her head chef Babatunde cook. But immediately she went to that shop, she began to regain her strength. All the pains and fever and weaknesses that she felt disappeared. And she continued like this for 1 week. And within that week, all the symptoms that she felt had also disappeared. Yetunde even had to go to one of the best hospitals in Lagos to run some tests. And lo and behold, all the cancer, diabetes, hypertension, and every form of sickness that she had disappeared. There was no single trace of sickness in Yetunde. Yetunde was shocked. She had never seen anything like this in her life. So as soon as she got back home that day, Yetunde sat her mother down and said, "Mommy, please make this make sense to me. How could I have been so critically ill in the UK with the best medical care and even at the point of death, yet not recovering? But just coming back home and following you to that your restaurant, and I am fine. I am completely well. Mommy, please, what are you not telling me?" Yetunde asked, looking very perplexed. Then Iya Basirat responded and said, "My dear, remember how much we suffered when your father died? At some point I got tired. I got tired of all the suffering and decided that I wanted to be rich. I was tired of being poor. So my friend took me somewhere, and that was when the prophetess told me to do something, which I did. And that was how we became very wealthy. And part of the condition that she gave me after doing it was that this was going to be a generational business, and that at least one of my daughters must join the business as soon as she clocks 26 years old. If not only will that daughter in question die, but every other member of the family would start dying one after the other. And that was why you suddenly fell sick. I'm so sorry, Yetunde." Iya Basirat replied, looking very confused. "What, Mom? How could you enter such a covenant? How could you do that? How could you strike a covenant with the devil? Don't you know that this is bondage? So wait, what is the point of all my education, and why did you even bother sending me to the best schools in England if you know that I will end up as a food seller in the dirty market of Ikotun?" Yetunde screamed angrily. For many days, Yetunde stayed up, locked in her room, thinking about all that her mother had said. No, 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 no. I cannot end up on the roadside selling food. What will my friends say? Especially when they see me. So what will happen to my legal career? Yetunde said aloud, crying. But Yetunde realized that the more she stayed at home, the more she began to fall very sick. She was getting weaker by the day because she had stopped following her mother to her shop. Yetunde knew that at this point she had no choice than to resume following her mother to the shop. And immediately she got well again. So every single time that she went, Yetunde began to notice strange things. First off, she noticed that it was only her mother and Babatunde that were allowed to cook the food in the morning. She also noticed that Babatunde would usually come to work every day with a black polythene bag, and that he would usually pour the contents into a big basin of water and wash it thoroughly. And then he would give her mother the dirty water, which the mother would use to cook the food for the day. When Yetunde asked her mother what Babatunde brought to work every day, Iya Basirat replied and said, "Omo mi, Since you will be taking over the running of this business, it is better that I start telling you how we function here. So what Babatunde brings here every day is human parts from the mortuary, and we wash them thoroughly and use the water to cook food and then bury the parts in the compound. And that is why we do not eat the food that we sell. Iya Basira replied her daughter, "Ah, mommy, is there no wickedness in high places? You mean you use dead body to cook? Jesus, I am finished. I am finished. Mom, please, I want no part in this. How can we have to stop this nonsense? How can we stop this nonsense? This is unfair." Yetunde asked, tears streaming down her eyes. "I'm sorry, my child, but there is nothing that we can do to stop it. I tried stopping it several years ago, but I nearly died. What is the point of having so much money, yet I have to come here and cook every day? And that is not all, oh. I still have to close up the shop from the 21st to the 25th every blessed month and travel down to Togo, where I have to behave and pretend to be a mad woman for those 4 days before coming back to Nigeria. The prophetess did not tell me all this. She didn't tell me all this part until after we had done the sacrifice. She didn't tell me that I would do all of these things," Iya Basira said, looking very sad. "Jesus, I am finished. I can't do this. I am finished. And mommy, this is what you want me to take over. This is the inheritance and the legacy that you want to pass down to me and my unborn children, and you want me to pass the same to my children. No way, I can't do this. I am not doing this," Yetunde replied, crying. So after that day, Yetunde was always lost in thought. She knew for a fact that this was not what she wanted for her life. She was a lawyer, for crying out loud. So Yetunde started looking for a solution. She started going from one prayer house to the other. Anywhere at all that she heard she could find a solution, she went there. She even went to a river priestess. She went to places that a Christian had no business going. And they all told her the same thing, that for her and her unborn generation to be free, that she had to expose her mother and Babatunde, which would mean that people would lynch her mother and Babatunde and would kill them and would definitely burn down the restaurant to the ground, and that it was the only way for her and her unborn children to be free. For many weeks, Yetunde battled within herself whether or not to do this. For crying out loud, this was her mother that had single-handedly raised her and her brother since they were kids. So how could she be the one responsible for her mother's death? But on the other hand, Yetunde knew that selling food in the dirty market of Ikotun was not her calling. She wanted to practice. Besides, she knew that she could not be using the water from dead people to cook. Neither did she want to be traveling to Togo every 21st of the month to roam mad, or at least pretend to be mad for 4 days. And she definitely knew that she did not want this for her unborn children. So after a few months of giving it a good thought, Yetunde made her decision. So one day, she followed her mother to her shop as usual and hid and videoed her. She captured every single thing that she was doing from start to finish. And after a while, she left the shop and then posted the video online. Meanwhile, Iya Basira was busy serving food at the shop in the afternoon, when suddenly all her customers who were on the queue and waiting to be served started checking their phones and looking shocked. And soon, they all started talking and grumbling at the same time. Wait oh, this woman, they use dead body water, they cook food where we dey chop. The crowd screamed in anger, and then all began to throw their plates at her angrily. And before Iya Basira could say Jack Robinson, they lynched her and Babatunde and set the both of them on fire and even set her shop on fire. Her shop burned to the ground and Iya Basira and Babatunde were burned to death. Meanwhile, Yetunde sat at home weeping because she knew exactly what was going on at her mother's shop right then. She knew that her mother was probably dead by now. And a few hours later, the news was everywhere. Iya Basira's shop was a popular restaurant, so everyone knew her. So it was no surprise that the news shook the internet for the next 2 weeks. But that was not all that happened, because all Iya Basira's properties also started getting burned to the ground. Everything she owned was getting destroyed. It was either the government was seizing them or they were getting burnt mysteriously. Yetunde was very shocked. She did not know how powerful the covenant her mother entered was. Like they literally lost everything. They became very poor. Yetunde did not even have enough money to book a flight back to the UK. Yetunde was literally stranded in Nigeria. Even her younger brother, Jide, if not that he was already in his final year in the university when all these things happened, he would not have had money to pay for his education and would have dropped out. Yetunde was sad that she was now poor, but was happy that she was now free from the bondage of the restaurant. So Yetunde went ahead and got a job in Nigeria and started from scratch. And even though she was happy that she was free from the restaurant, she missed her mother and would sometimes weep at night, knowing that she was the one who had killed her mother indirectly. Hi besties, it's your favorite storyteller, Omalicha. Thank you so much for watching my story to the end. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one. If you were Yetunde, what would you have done? Like, would you have continued with the covenant of selling food, using human parts to cook, and, walking around the streets of Togo for 4 days mad? Would you have done that so that your mother would leave? Or would you have exposed your mother just as Yetunde did, even though you knew that it would cost her life? What would you have really done? Please share your thoughts with me in the comment section, and please support your homegirl, Omalicha, by subscribing to my channel, liking my videos, and sharing with your loved ones. So now, till I come your way again with more interesting stories, bye!
सारा कलर जो थे ना ये पुराने वाले ना ये चेंज करा दिया ये थंबनेल ना हो गए दाढ़ी करे नहीं कुल बड़ा ये पेपर ली करे नहीं कुल बड़ा गाने भी चलते पे वीडियो में
गाने बंद करो
यार ये रेडी ना करना कुछ
साउंड बंद कर संग भाई 3 मिनट दी वीडियो मेरी
देखो ऑफ कर दे से एक अगर इतना ऑन है इतना आइडियम दे सेट करे दिया ला खत्म हो गया ये ये क्लिक करे से अब ओके दा कोई ऑप्शन आवे सी ते यहां आवे सी करे डाउनलोड नथी सी ये ऑफ करे से बड़ा डाउनलोड थे वैसे बड़ा इतना आसान है इधर आए खड़ा है ये आइडियम दे सेट करे राइट क्लिक के एक्सट्रैक्ट हेयर करे से चाहिए मैं डबल क्लिक कर दे